Is America quietly preparing for a second civil war? The question sounds like a movie title, yet it touches a real anxiety beneath the polished surface of the world's oldest modern democracy. In a society where almost everything can be politicized, from a face mask to a flag on the porch, reports of politically motivated attacks, extreme rhetoric online, and flag-filled convoys on both sides make people wonder whether the line between disagreement and violence is wearing thin. To understand why the question haunts so many, we need a wider frame. After the Cold War, the United States moved through an era of rapid globalization. Jobs in manufacturing went overseas. Big cities boomed on tech and finance, the income gap widened. Immigration and identity became hot-button words. Fragmented media shattered the shared space where facts once lived. Americans used to watch the evening news and argue from the same baseline. Now many live in echo chambers, each with a private information universe and a list of enemies to beware. Distrust spreads from institutions down to the neighbor next door, and politics becomes a new form of faith that demands total loyalty. Tension is not new in American history, but there used to be common rooms where the heat could drop. Today, every election cycle feels like a referendum on identity, where the other side is not only wrong, but a threat to survival. When people look for warning signs, they think of violence first. But violence rarely starts with gunfire, it often starts with language. When we stop calling the other side an opponent and start calling them traitors or a danger to children, when basic civility is replaced by mockery and humiliation, we hand out a mental permission slip to go further. That is how threats become normal, how weekend drills, viral videos, and moral armor in the form of symbols spread. In a healthy democracy, there are safety valves to lower pressure. Legislative compromise, independent journalism that people trust. Courts respected by both camps, leaders who send calming signals. When all those valves are doubted at the same time, identity-based conflict can turn into a struggle for survival. So are we seeing organized preparations for a classic civil war, or are we watching a rise in scattered violence and lone wolf extremism? These are not the same. The familiar image of civil war shows territories drawn in lines, uniforms, and a clear chain of command. Modern society does not easily allow that form. America is not split neatly by geography. Polarization is woven through every state, every county, every neighborhood, even families. The more plausible risk is a long period of division with local flashpoints, individual attacks, heavy-handed movements, prolonged political crises, and cycles of retaliation. It is the kind of conflict that is hard to name yet deeply corrosive. It weakens institutions, blurs norms, and drains the economy and social life bit by bit. A quiet defensive mindset is also slipping into everyday life. People stock up if a long storm is coming. Companies adjust security and public statements as if any campaign could trigger a boycott. Schools and churches run drills like preparing for natural disasters. Campaigns at every level plan not only to persuade voters, but to protect venues with security plans, controlled entrances, and emergency messaging. When a society runs like this long enough, the answer to whether it is preparing for conflict may not lie in intention, but in habit. Even so, America is not only darkness. Beneath the storms of words, there is a strong current of self-correction. Courts still function, investigative journalism still exposes wrongdoing. Elections still draw a high turnout. Millions of civic groups quietly repair the fabric at the level of blocks and classrooms. What amazes much of the world about the United States is not perfection, but the ability to pivot and self-repair in the middle of crisis. So when we ask the heavy question, we are not speaking about fate. We are speaking about a fork in the road that depends on the choices real people make in the coming years. The core of this debate can be seen in three layers. The first is structure. institutions and rules are being stress-tested. When a part of the public believes the other side will bend the rules, they are tempted to propose defensive measures that also break norms. Red states and blue states pull power toward their own side, revise election laws, argue about state versus federal authority, immigration, and public order. That is how a nation slides from competition in policy to raw competition for power. The second layer is technology. Algorithms turn conflict into a business model. The more outrage a message creates, the farther it travels. The more sensational an accusation, the more it gets repeated. Digital tunnels create parallel realities, each with its own heroes and villains. The third layer is identity. Faith, race, region, gender, and history are rearranged into axes useful for mobilizing voters. Free societies always have differences, but when differences harden into bunkers, goodwill is traded for hostility. The worst case for America is not necessarily states declaring war on each other. The more troubling possibility is a slide into permanent high tension. Scattered acts of violence become background heat. Public buildings need taller barriers. Elections require larger security forces. Teachers and doctors hesitate to do sensitive work for fear of doxing and threats. Mayors and local officials weigh every decision like stepping on thin ice. None of this looks like civil war in a textbook, but it is a slow erosion that exhausts a republic, shakes faith in democracy abroad, and delights geopolitical rivals. Is there a way to reverse course or at least slow the slide? The answer lies in unglamorous steps that add up. Restore the small democratic rituals we once took for granted. Respect due process, accept the count, resolve disputes through institutions rather than crowds. Strengthen local bodies like school boards, city councils, and juries where citizens still see each other face to face and remember that the other side is human, not a hate-filled symbol. Each student's disagreement is not a sin, that free speech is not a license to insult, that argument needs standards of evidence, that history has gray zones, and that loving your country does not require hating someone else. Press platforms to be more transparent about how content spreads. Reduce rewards for incitement and increase rewards for dialogue. Most of all, demand that political leaders use words that cool the temperature instead of pouring fuel on the fire, because language from positions of power sets the social baseline. Some will say this sounds naive in a hot election season, when calls for unity get labeled as weakness. Yet American history is full of turning points created by unpopular choices. When a candidate refuses to harvest fear for votes. When a governor admits a mistake and fixes it. When a judge explains a ruling in plain language. When a host brings two opponents together for a respectful conversation. When a company resists the outrage of the day and puts long-term standards first. These small pieces become the safety valve a democracy needs. What remains is the mindset of citizens. The question of a second civil war is really a question about what each of us is preparing for. If we prepare for the worst day by arming up and cutting off, we bring that day closer. If we prepare by reading across lines, checking our own bias, removing inflammatory content from our feeds, and talking to people as humans instead of labels, we prepare a stronger peace. In a free society, the power of citizens is not in waiting for great men and women. It is in the ability to say no to the addiction of outrage. The question is America quietly preparing for a second civil war? We hear two echoes. One is an alarm bell that reminds us there are tracks in history that lead to cliffs. The other is a reminder that freedom is fragile, that democracy does not live by itself, and that it must be nourished every day with the skill of disagreeing in peace. If America is a magnifying mirror for the West, what it does in the coming years will shape how the world understands the possibility of living together with deep differences. The final answer should not be a dark prophecy, it should be a commitment. A commitment to language that does not strip people of dignity. A commitment to truth before tribal victory. A commitment to minimum standards of civilized life even when politics feels like a game without rules. A society that prepares for civil war is a society surrendering to fear. A society that prepares for peace is one brave enough to protect small right things. In the end, that is the only preparation worth handing to the next generation.